Hey folks, welcome to the second video in the Project 1 Simple Architecture Project series of videos. So we have the very basic house actually built. In the last video we went over making the cube, making the roof, coloring, adding windows and doors. And you can see here that I have a pretty good example of what it should look like, but yours will obviously be different. So in this video, we are going to build onto what we already have here, and we're going to be adding a garage as well as a couple of pathways leading up to the garage as well as the front door. And then we're going to start designing the backyard, adding fencing, putting in pools, basketball courts, kind of whatever you want to put in there. And we will have a bit of time at the end for downloading things like cars. So let's get right into it. The first thing that we're going to work on here is just creating a really simple path that goes from the kind of where you would imagine the road to be up to the door. And obviously the path is going to be a rectangle, so we've done this before. We're going to use the rectangle tool. And we're going to start the path from where the door starts on the ground. We're going to click, drag, so that the pathway is just to the tip of the other side of the door, and then we're going to click again. Now you'll notice that the door filled in when we did that, and that's because we were completing this door shape. We added a line below when we made the rectangle for the pathway, so all we have to do is just grab the pointer tool and delete the door. So I'm going to grab the pointer tool, select the door, and again we can see that the door is selected and ready to delete because it turns blue when I click on it. And then I'm just going to hit delete. There we go. Our door is back open. Now let's go ahead and color this path. So I'm going to go into the paint bucket and I'm going to pick, let's see here. I'm going to pick asphalt and concrete. And then I'm just going to lay a stone pattern over top on there. So I selected it and just kind of clicked on top of the pathway. Okay, so now we have a nice pathway leading to the door. Later on we're going to put some flowers on either side and all that. But for right now, let's go ahead and create a garage on the side of our house. So we can see here that I have an entryway to the back yard of the house, which is actually going to be the side yard. So I'm going to go ahead and put my garage over here on the other side where I have all of these windows in here. And what I'm going to do is, since the garage is going to be a big square, we're going to start with the rectangle tool. And we're just going to click to the corner of the house and make a fairly sizable garage here, enough so a car will fit in it. Use the rectangle tool for that. And now we are going to push-pull the garage the same way that we did the house in the previous video. So I'm going to grab the push-pull tool and just click and move this up so it's a cube, and then unclick. So we've blocked some of our windows in there, but that's okay. We can go in and fix that later. Actually, it's kind of cool because you can now see into the garage from the main room. You know what? Actually, I'm going to shrink the garage down on the side a little bit so that it's not blocking this whole window. So I'm just going to do a little quick edit undo here. And I'm going to edit undo again to make the rectangle smaller. And I'm just going to redo that so that it doesn't cover up the window. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Okay, so you can go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and start making your garage and front pathway. It doesn't matter where you put the garage. It doesn't matter where your front door is, just so long as you have both. So go ahead and pause the video now and create your entrance walkway as well as the garage. Okay, now that you've made the pathway as well as the cube for the garage, we are going to create a garage door and then just put a nice roof on the garage like we did previously, just the same way as the house. So to create the garage door, I'm just going to be putting a big rectangle in here. So you guessed it, I will be using the rectangle tool to do that. So I'm going to click the rectangle tool. And just the same way I did the front door and the side door and really all of the windows, I'm just going to click here and create this garage door with the rectangle tool. And then just like we did with the door earlier, I'm going to use the pointer tool and delete this section of the garage door so we can see through it. So I'm going to grab the pointer tool Click the garage door, and we can tell that the garage door is selected because it's shaded in blue. And then just simply hit delete. Okay, so we got a nice open garage door here now. Let's go in and make a driveway for our car to go in and out of. So the driveway is the same as the pathway. We're going to use the rectangle tool and snap it to either side of the garage door and just kind of drag it until it's going straight to where you would see the road. Now, we're going to go ahead and arch the roof for the garage. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. It really depends on the design that you're looking for, but I'm going to go ahead and arch the roof. So same way we did the roof on the house, I'm going to grab the pencil tool, and I'm going to drag along this border until I hit the midpoint. We can see that it turns blue and says midpoint, just like the last time. I'm going to click, draw the line, and click again. So now this top shape of the garage has been cut in half by the line. And now I'm going to use the move tool to move it up into an arch. Grab the move tool, hover over top of the line until it turns blue. And just the same way as before, I'm going to click and then press the up key on the keyboard and then drag the roof up and click another time. Good. Go ahead and pause the video and finish making your garage door and the driveway and arch the roof if you want to. Okay, now that you've done all that, I'm going to leave the painting and adding of textures to the garage up to you, since we already know how to do that at this point. You can pick any shades you want, and again, we use the paint bucket to fill that stuff in. And if you want to and really get designy, you could even put some windows up in the top of the garage. Like I could put a nice circular window here, and I could end up filling that in if I wanted to. So you can design it however you want, but for the finished product, this is going to be painted, but I'm going to move on here. So let's go ahead and start making our backyard. And the way you start making a backyard, obviously, is you need to put a fence around it so we know where the backyard begins and ends. And the way we're going to do this is actually with the rectangle tool. We are going to create a border all the way around your piece of property. And then we're going to color it with a texture that's actually fence. It's fencing. It's meant to look like fence. And you'll see what that looks like in just a second. So the most important part about making the fence around your property with the rectangle tool is making sure that you have a good view so that the fence stands straight up. So I'm going to show you how that looks and then kind of why we did it that way. So previously, when we've used the rectangle tool to make shapes, we've looked from the top down. And then it's been easier to draw the shape flat because we have a bird's eye view and we're looking downward. Well, this time, we don't want to be looking down because we want the fence to be standing straight up on the side here. So instead of looking down, I'm going to look from the side, and I'm going to grab the rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw just a kind of a wall going all the way across here, and it's going to fill in white when I unclick. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. We can see that it's not on the floor now, it's kind of standing straight up on its edge. I'm going to turn to the other side of the fence and actually do the same thing over here. And you want to make sure that they're even. We don't want it way down here looking like that because then the fence isn't even, right? So let me undo that. There we go. That looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to get another good view on the back. Look at the side here. And then drag another big long fence piece all the way around. Good, so I guess we'll have just a small little area back here, which is fine. So just going to finish it off. And there we go. Now, it doesn't look much like a fence right now. It just looks like a big white box. But what we're going to do is actually use the textures in the paint bucket to make this look like it's a fence. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. Going to select the paint bucket. And in the categories on the drop-down menu, we're going to select fencing. Now we can see there's lots of different options for fencing. There's kind of a white picket, there's a wrought iron, and there's a bunch of chain link fences. I'm going to pick this white picket one here and watch what happens when I paint. See how it filled in the wall to look kind of like a fence? And it's actually cool because it's clear as well. You can see through the different sides of it. So I'm going to paint this all the way around. And there you go. Now we have a nice border around our property. So go ahead and try the fence. Remember, the most important thing is that when we're making the fence with the rectangle tool, we're looking at the side, on a side view, rather from looking from the top like we did before. So pause the video now and go ahead and try and make your fence. Okay, so now that you have your fence in, let's go ahead and put some grass all the way around our property. Right now, we don't really have a floor. You can see that we can kind of like see through it. Our house is kind of like floating over top of everything here. So we're going to put a big square around the entire house and then color it with grass texture. I'm going to show you what that looks like. First, we're going to get a bird's eye view and zoom way out on everything. Then we're going to take the rectangle tool and draw a big square around the whole piece of property. Now we can see that our driveway and our pathway filled in, but that's okay. We can repaint that later. And now we're going to go in and get some grass from the paint bucket, and that is in the vegetation section. And when I do that, I'm going to select the grass and then just kind of click the bottom, and there we go. We got grass throughout our whole piece of property here. Go ahead and pause the video and put a grass all around your property. Okay, now that you have your whole property, have grass all around it, or whatever you choose. It doesn't have to be grass technically. You can do whatever you like. Let's go ahead and start importing some images from online. So there's something you can use with SketchUp called the 3D Warehouse, and what that lets you do is kind of search online what kind of model you're looking for, whether that's a car or whether that's a trampoline or really anything you're looking for, and you can download it directly from there and put it into your model. And I'm going to go ahead and use that feature to add a car in the driveway. The icon looks like this. It looks like the SketchUp logo kind of coming out of a box, and it's called the 3D Warehouse. When I click on this, it's going to open up a window that has lots of different models inside of it that we can choose from. Okay. So now that it's open, we can really search for whatever we want. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video and open up the 3D Warehouse and then come back to us and I'll show you how to search. Okay, now that you have it open, as I said before, I'm just going to look for a car that I can put in the driveway. So in this top search bar here, I'm just going to type in car and press enter. And there are 58,000 results that I can choose from. So this is valuable just to make your house look a little bit better. We can have like a really nice car in the driveway. For your final projects, obviously we won't be able to just download stuff from the internet, but this is just a nice touch that we can put on there. Now, one word of warning, don't pick the most complicated, crazy looking car you can find because it'll be hard for your computer to load it. Like this green one over here, there's a lot of stuff going on in there. It's a really complex model and it'll be difficult for your computer to load all of that stuff into your model. So choose something a little bit simpler. I'm going to scroll down here and I'm just going to pick, let's see here. I'm going to pick this yellow Lamborghini here. We can see that it's not as complex as some of the other ones. There's kind of not a whole lot of different levels going on and a bunch of shapes making it up. So to download something, you just click the little download button in the bottom right of the window. You can see it turns red when I arrow over it. And it's going to ask, do we want to load it into the model? Yes, we do. And when it's done loading, it will simply be attached to my move tool. And I'll be able to move it around. Now this car, see how it's kind of just chugging along and kind of jumping. It's kind of hard to move around. That's because this is a really complex looking model, so it's hard for my computer to keep up with it. But that's okay. This is just an example. I would pick something simpler for you guys. So I can go ahead and just click now. And there we go. I got a nice sports car in my driveway. So you can do that same process for anything that you want to import, whether that's chairs for your backyard or flowers in the front yard or whatever. Just whatever you type into the search bar, you can go ahead and download it and place it wherever you like. So that concludes this video. I'll see you in the next one that talks about finalizing your model and kind of what it should look like and what I'm asking for your grade. We'll see you next time.